being a cop. He said, oh yeah, you played all that on? I said, yeah. I said, you want to do a session? And we both lived in the same neighborhood, both on the Upper East Side. I said, come over to the office. So I come over there, Arthur's there, Arthur Baker's there. We went to the studio either that day or the next day and recorded Planet Rock. I started playing music when I was 5. My father played banjo on the radio in the 20s. He was terrible at it, but he had a guitar around the house and I started playing that, and I just never stopped. It's kind of a convoluted story because at some point in my childhood there ended up being an electronic chord organ in the house. Now what those were they were basically accordions with legs, and sound was generated by wind being pushed through reeds, and there were preset chords on the left and regular keyboard on the right, and you hit a C or a C minor and play along with it. So I was simultaneously learning guitar and keyboards, which I ended up doing as a profession. And although I am a better guitarist than a keyboardist, but which is interesting. Then we all started forming bands, and it's looking back on it. I mean, maybe I'm digressing a bit, but I think this is an important part of the discussion because I think this pertains to a lot of people, how they got their start in music. We were in a very, very white, privileged upbringing, and that's the truth. We didn't know what was going on in the outside world, and in that way we were sheltered and privileged. But I think we all formed bands for that reason. So then my keyboard playing is, I had a bunch of friends, we all loved the Doors, and we started a band called Backdoor Man. So my father bought me a Farfisa organ, which is very, very generous, very expensive for the salary that my father made. I think with the organ and the amplifier, it was probably around $700, which was a fortune in 1966, 67. So I started playing Ray Manzarek's style organ with this band, and so that band ended, I played guitar with another. Then that band ended, I played organ with another. So that's really basically how I got started. How I got started in electronic and synthesizer music is a whole nother story. But and the advice of a friend, he said, basically started yelling at me. He said, what are you doing? This isn't working. Go buy a tape recorder. Start recording your own music. So I did. I bought a 4-channel tape recorder and working at my family's cheese store. And it stayed in a box for 6 months. I was afraid of it. So then I found a drummer, couldn't find a bass player, and we recorded all these songs on our own, just the two of us, and I overdubbed the bass and the keyboards and the guitar. I did everything, And so I found this incredible bass player, and he comes in the story later, and we were auditioning keyboard players because I wanted to play guitar at this point. This one guy came down, Ray Jones, a skinny black kid, and he was the coolest guy in the world. And I had a Wurlitzer electric piano, but he brought this little micro Moog synthesizer. And because he lived in some very dangerous part of Brooklyn, he didn't want to carry it on the subways with him. So he left it at my parents' house. So I learned how to play synthesizer. Now this is before synthesizers were programmable. We had to turn knobs and do everything yourself, and you really had to learn the basic functionality of it. It wasn't that hard because they were, the architecture of those synthesizers was not as sophisticated. The synthesizers are way over sophisticated now. There's too many bells and whistles, too many post effects channels. It's overkill. But I learned on that synthesizer because of Ray Jones. Now, what I did was I took that synthesizer and I started doing electronic music, 4-track electronic music. And I would use this little synthesizer. I was able to, they had what's called a sample and hold generator rather. It's a modulator, and synthesizers have them now, but they're not as basic. What this allowed you to do was press a note, turn a knob, and the note would repeat. So it would go boom, boom, boom. Now if you manipulated the filter enough so that very little melody is actually coming out of it, you can produce a bass drum sound. And if you turn off the oscillator and made the filter as your sound source, turn it even more, you can make a real bass drum sound. That's what I did. I used that to create a bass drum sound, and I played everything in real time along to it. Okay. And I used to do this for fun. The band got signed to Eddie O'Loughlin, who owned Next Plateau, used to work for the disco label called Midsong. They put out Silver Convention, Fly, Robin Fly, and all these records that I frankly hated. I learned to like disco after I started doing sessions because I realized how complicated it was. And also I became introduced to the culture. And being part of a culture makes everything different. You know, it makes everything different. And which is what happened with hip hop. I hated Planet Rock. I thought it was ridiculous. I did. I said, what is this? I mean, it's like, but when I saw what was happening in the streets, I saw what was happening in clubs, and I was introduced to a new world, and I got it. I got it. It was transformative. And unless you're in the culture, and because of the way I played and what I did and my ability to create sounds, more than my ability as a keyboardist, my ability is more as a sound architect. I was introduced to all these cultures, everywhere. I mean, I was working with Cabaret Voltaire and New Order and...
The 70 billion people over there. The 70 billion people over there. Where are they hiding?
You've lost faith within your heart, the fire in your soul from the end to the start.
And then when you're part of all those cultures, you see things through that lens, and it's very, very different. Then you start to appreciate how different music moves different people, and why, and how. And it changes the way you view, not just music in general, but the way you view the world. So I went to speak to Eddie O'Loughlin, and who's still my friend to this day. And I said, you know, I got this electronic stuff I'm messing around with. You know, it's kind of danceable. I don't really know what to do with it. He said, there's this guy in the Bronx, Africa Bambaataa. Why don't you go talk to him? So I took two songs that I recorded. One of them was called, this is interesting, one was called 9/11, but it wasn't based on the tragedy. It was the name of the Porsche, 911. I just, you know, it was sort of electronic and zoomy, and I thought it was a good association. And the other was called Vina Cava. And I went to Bambaataa because a friend offered to give me money to go into a real recording studio to record one of them. So I wanted Bam's opinion on I drove in the back of his motorcycle to, I don't think he was actually in the South Bronx. He was at a project at the time, and I should know the name, but I'm not good at that. So we go to his apartment, and he has this huge, you know, turntables and these huge PA systems in the apartment. And his mother's in the bedroom watching A Wheel of Fortune. And he's playing this stuff. He goes, turn that shit down! It was like, hilarious. You couldn't make this up. So I played the two songs for Bam. I said, if you're going to the recording studio, which one would you choose? He chose Vina Cava. So I went to the studio. I recorded Vina Cava. Then I didn't know what to do with it. I called up Bam again. He said, there's this guy, Mike Wilkinson. He owns this record company called Disconnect. Disconnect was a subscriber service. They'd put out a selection, a different selection of new artists. I don't know if it was every other week or every month, I don't recall, but it was at least every month. And their A&R guy there was this guy named Raul Rodriguez, who passed away way too young. And he listened to Vina Cava, and he called me up, and he was laughing at me. He said, are you kidding me? You expect me to put this shit out? It's a true story. A week later, I get a phone call. I can't stop listening to this. It's amazing. We're going to put this out. So they did. Then I didn't know what to do with it. You know, I wasn't very good at self-promotion or business or anything. So Bam said, there's this guy, Tom Silverman. Why don't you play it for him? So I called up Tom, and Tommy Boy, of course. And I said, did you get the Disconnect selection? He said, Vina Cava. He said, oh, yeah, you played all that on? I said, yeah. I said, you want to do a session? And we both lived in the same neighborhood, both on the Upper East Side. I said, come over to the office. So I come over there, Arthur's there, Arthur Baker's there. We went to the studio either that day or the next day and recorded Planet Rock. Ask Bambaataa what the B-side of a Guess Who record was, and he'll know it. The hip-hop heads know more about all kinds of music than white musicians generally do. For white musicians, electronic music kind of begins and ends with Kraftwerk and Brian Eno, with a little taste of Vangelis and Laurie Anderson, you know. But a lot of electronic music was done on early hip-hop records when it was more complex, until Run DMC, which was great, made it very, very minimal. And then it kind of stayed that way. But a lot of those early records, the records that are now called freestyle, were made by electronic musicians. You know, the synthesizers didn't create their own sounds. But people aren't aware of that. I mean, like Bernie Worrell, he's an electronic musician. And there's a Bernie Worrell in so many funk bands in the 70s. And they were electronic musicians. As soon as you have that mini Moog and you turn a fucking filter knob, you're an electronic musician. But they've been relegated to the status of mere keyboardists. Not fair, not fair. What I'm going to do is program the hi-hat, the cowbell, and the rim shot from Perfect Beat. Here's the cowbell. There's a complete cowbell pattern. Now I'm going to add the rim shot. Looking for the perfect beat. Now the 16th note hi-hat. The pattern of these three instruments appears on every beat that's used in Perfect Beat. Now, when you play them all together, you can just create a wild, frenzied pattern. After the 808 beats are put onto tape, we can manipulate those beats even further by pulling things in and out of the mix or adding effects to the individual drums. The mixing board becomes an instrument in itself. You're playing it like a piano or a guitar. Well, I got to mention Downtown because that's where we are right now, and I'm a client of theirs, and I couldn't be happier. I mean, they've organized my life respectfully and conscientiously, and I've also developed a very, very close friendship with Sean McGraw here, who I adore. I mean, he's super smart, he's passionate, he's funny, and he's kind. And what you need in this business are people who are kind. Because, you know, I mean, I may come off as brusque, and a lot of people, it's been the history of the world. People confuse self-confidence and confidence with arrogance. I'm not those things. I'm just passionate. So when I say the kindness that I feel here matters to me, it really does matter. Because we're artists and we're babies. What are you going to do?